And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the monastery, the open bar of the internet, the world's greatest shit show, and the place where we, the good brothers and sisters of this most holy of temples, seek enlightenment through the drunkest, craziest, and most batshit ways possible. I am your one and only gaming monk, better known as Mildra, and with me, I have a returning good brother to the temple, previously here for High Caster and then Dungeon Caster, and subsequently the caster system as a whole. And now back with the end is hashtag trending. The one and only Christopher Gray. How you doing today, man?
Hello, I'm doing great. I am happy to be part of this shit show.
So, I know it's been about 3 years since I
An
had you
accomplice.
on. Yeah, a accomplice, slash fall guy, if they, depending on how things go.
Right.
The kind of person who in court would say, "Your Honor, shut the fuck up. You weren't even there." But obviously, now this is a new experience because it's been several years since I've covered a film on this channel, and The End is Trending is a hybrid TTRPG and film project, as you described it on the Kickstarter. So,
Yes.
I may as well get to the chicken and egg question. Was it a case where you made a TTRPG first and then made a film out of it, or was it the other way, or were both of them kind of made at the same time?
Well, it was the film first, but I can't not make games. And as the script was done and production started, I wanted to make a game. This would make a good game. And I have my system, so I thought about how I could adapt my system to the game.
Which certainly makes sense. Now, because I did go through the RPG side of things, and something I noticed is that compared to some of the other caster system entries, this is fairly light. This is only
Yes.
This is only 23 pages, though it's more like 46 because of how it's split. Oh,
Right. Yeah, the content's very light.
Yeah, it's not far removed from something you would see in Zine Quest, or even something you'd see in the mid 2010s, when a lot of people were jumping on the PBTA bandwagon.
Right. And me, I did that.
Mm-hmm. Now, granted, there are large PBTA books. I've got a few of them, but not all of them were. And I think what really came to mind for that is the fact that the 6 archetypes you have, the content creators, very much feel reminiscent to playbooks in PBTA, and I'm wondering if that was intentional.
Yeah, it is. And actually, the overall design becoming minimal was deliberate. That's what you're seeing with this version of Caster is a second edition version of Caster, which hasn't been really released. And the design was very deliberately stripped down to something that could end up on cards.
Mm-hmm.
And that that edition actually exists in my cupboard. I have not released it, but this is sort of a hearkening to what's happening to the system, because it was designed to be an open and play kind of experience. And, as in contrast to something like Highcaster, which is really in depth and world rich, this is more one shotty and scrappy and can be done on cards. So that's what you're seeing, but it's in zine format. And as a result of that minimal design, it does need playbooks in order to. There's not a whole lot of character building that you do with such a stripped down design. However, when second edition does come to the table, it'll be modular. So you'll basically create your character with cards, not unlike how Daggerheart does it. And that means then you're not using playbooks. In that case, you're actually customizing character. But for the case of the Indus Trending, yeah, these are playbooks.
Yeah. So this idea of doing this mix of cosmic horror with a bit of almost satire of social media, how did that come about?
It actually came in two colliding moments. One was the natural disasters that hit North Carolina and the eastern seaboard with the hurricanes a couple years ago. I was watching it break live on TikTok, and that was at a time where I think that was the first time even Katrina didn't hit me that hard, because you were watching it from the point of view of the people on the ground, not from the point of view of the news media, and it felt more real and visceral, and it really shocked me about how terrible that tragedy was. And then it kind of happened again in Los Angeles with our fires, and I was pretty close to the fires, and I saw a different reaction online, and it was sort of like, oh yeah, well, LA deserves it kind of narrative happening while I was living the tragedy in my own life. And it occurred to me when those two narratives collided that there is an immense power in social media where we can either do good or evil with it. and then I thought, well, that sounds very Lovecraftian. And that was the birth of the idea. I would love to see Cthulhu unleashed as a result of a social media trend,
Yeah.
and then use social media to put Cthulhu down.
Mm-hmm. And in a roundabout way, even though the ending for it is not the same, what I ended up thinking of was the third film in the Apocalypse trilogy, In the Mouth of Madness.
Oh right, yeah, yeah. It's a lot like that.
Which I know for a lot of people, they've mostly seen The Thing, and don't get me wrong, I enjoy that movie, but I do feel like the other parts of what Carpenter called the Apocalypse trilogy don't get the love that they probably should. Admittedly, Heart of Darkness is probably the weakest of the three. It's almost like a prototype for what would be in the Mouth of Madness.
Carpenter's brain is operating on a very familiar level for us. I mean, if he wasn't a gamer, he probably would have liked it if he is. But absolutely. This is along the same thinking. And the movie itself, we're done with principal photography, so I can tell you a little bit about how, and then the assembly edit's done, so I can tell you a little bit of how it looks and feels. And it is a found footage sort of experience, but it has those themes that you get from those movies, a sort of existential dread. But it's focused on the people and not so much on the conflict. You know what I mean? Like the dread or the apocalypse, if you will, is happening as a set piece. What you're really watching are the people, their relationships, how those break down and interact. And that's something that I was trying to really focus in on. That's the reason why it also makes a great role-playing game.
Mm-hmm. And it's fun. It's funny because found footage is something that's kind of fallen out of favor over the years, largely because a lot of people took the. It's one of those cases where somebody does it and a lot of people take the wrong lessons.
It's a really good way to put it. Yeah.
I think it. I think one really good example of this sort of thing is Half-Life. Now that this is not a knock on the original Half-Life, I will make that perfectly clear. It's more that I think a lot of people misunderstood what made the linear design in Half-Life work, and ended up trying to build on those misunderstandings and worse games were as a result. Uh, there's there's a concept that was brought up by one of the combat designers at Bungie back in the day called 30 seconds of fun. Uh, you know, basically, if and he said this in one of the behind the scenes videos, if you can build 30 seconds of fun, you can stretch that out to a whole game. He's since expressed frustration with how people misinterpreted what he had to say, because he think a lot of people took it as, oh, just make 30 seconds and the job's done. Uh, no, you have to keep iterating that 30 seconds. And
Right.
when it comes to found footage, uh, I think found footage is something that can certainly work, but what it can work with is very specific. And I think that's the reason why of larger movies that have done it, there's only three movies I can think of that did it properly. The original Blair Witch, the original Paranormal Activity, and Chronicle.
Right.
And
Yeah, the found footage obviously is attractive because it's cheap and it's easy. But as you say, if you are, and I'd like to hear what you think is the thing that should be focused on, but for it to work. But for me, if you are focused on the horror or the bad guy or the monster in the house, you're focused on the wrong thing. The reality of what makes a movie good is not necessarily because of the special effects or the bad thing that you're running from or the monster in the house. What makes a movie good are the human relationships between the people that are there that you are seeing, and either you're seeing a mirror of yourself or you're looking out the window and seeing people you know, and what happens to them and their meaningful lives. That's what we're attracted to as audiences. So the movies that do it right, whether it's found footage or Marvel, are doing it right because they're focused on the people.
that I can see. And I think of the slasher movies from the 80s. And the ones that worked were the monster in those was one part of the equation. I think of, say, um, Halloween, and how you have something like you have um, Myers as this inevitable thing that just will not stop, and how people react and deal with that is the key thing. Um, same thing with the Terminator, obviously, and to an extent Friday the 13th, though with Friday the 13th that was almost a pot shot at irresponsibility of youth, or at least a twisted view of it, because one could argue the real villain in the original Friday the 13th was Jason's mother. Oh,
Yeah, and all those slashers are trying to punish the characters for a sin that they've done,
oh,
whether it is outright, teenage sex or whatever it is, but it might be more subtle than that.
in in the case of Nightmare on Elm Street, it was him being it was him being burned alive by the town. Uh,
Right.
Although when it when you when I compare it um with the other slasher films of that era, um Nightmare on Elm Street is a bit of an anomaly because of how much fun Freddy is having with what he does.
Right.
Uh,
It's almost the final destination of its day. You know, it really does play for laughs.
yeah, and you don't have. And it's funny you bring up Final Destination because you don't really have a slasher quote. You don't not the slasher. You don't have it on the monster quote unquote in Final Destination. You
Oh,
have
the monster is death. Yeah, basically inevitability.
yeah. I mean, yeah. You could probably argue that the monster is fate. Uh, or some I know some might argue that that Tony Jay's character in that was the monster, but not really. He was just the herald.
Yeah, the Herald. Right, right. That's smart. That yeah,
Uh,
totally.
and
Yeah, indeed. You know, horror. We have an opportunity with horror to really, like I said before, put up a mirror, and I think that there's a good reason why horror is taking off right now. One of them is that the major Hollywood studios can't figure it out. They can't figure out what audiences want to see. But the other reason is there's so much going on in the world. There's a lot of mirrors to hold up.
mhm.
And it's an exciting time, I think, for movies because we're getting, you know, well, just Obsession is a perfect example. Obsession, it could be me, you know, that's a guy that was great. I saw him on TikTok for a couple of years doing really hilarious skits, and now he gets $750,000 from a studio to make his movie. It gets sold for something like $15 million and makes $100 million inside of 3 days. And I mean, that's no accident. That is because this is what audiences want right now. And so if it's stories we want to tell as a storyteller, whether I'm telling stories through games or movies, this is the place to be.
There's also the fact that as more and more studio projects flop, they're going to be more and more desperate. Uh,
Yeah.
which means they are going to be more and more willing to uh, be a bit more amenable at the negotiating table. Uh,
Yeah, and then they need to take a hard look at themselves. I mean, we have these major indie horror hits month after month. There's three in as many months with Iron Lung, with the other one's eluding me. But we have these major hits. This is what people are coming to the theaters to see. And what ends up happening is the studios are owning what's happening on streams, but they're not owning what's happening in the theaters. The indies that are,
I
and
know
that's
that
something they're going to have to reconcile.
I know that with Iron Lung, there some if it was somebody thought that they could pull some funny business and try and take Iron Lung's rating off of IMDb. Oh, they for like a day before they got caught and the site got roasted over an open flame for it. Because the thing
I
that
hadn't
I'm
heard that.
sure a lot of studios are seething about when it comes to Iron Lung is, uh, he did not take any investor money for that project. Any investor money, any studio
Right.
money, or anything like that. It all came out of his own pocket, which is kind of breaking one of the age-old rules of don't put your own money into a project.
Yeah, I mean, you have to break it. I mean, because you can't, especially someone at that time, although he had the audience, but he didn't. You can't go to an investor and say, I need $15 million to make this movie, or even $2 million to make this movie, because you're not established as a filmmaker. I mean, I couldn't when I was working on The End is Trending.
Mm-hmm.
And so the idea of going to investors is ridiculous for indie filmmakers at this point. In fact, they have things like fiscal sponsors, which will, like I set up a fiscal sponsor for my project where people can donate to a nonprofit,
Mm-hmm.
and then that nonprofit pays out the production fees for you.
Yeah.
And that's so you're giving you're donating to art. That's different than investing in a product. And what the studios don't get is it used to be about audience, not about profit. Like you could, as a studio, you could have your 5 terrible movies, but your one tentpole, and that would be fine because you're making art. But also you have the tentpole to make money. And now that all of the bankers are involved and all the private investors and the venture capitalists are involved, they want profit on every project, and not just profit, but more profit than they got last year. and you can't make art like that. And
Not
and so
only
and so it's fallen to the rest of us to make our own without them.
not only that, but it eliminates one particular concept that for the longest time has been smart business, and that's loss leaders.
Right, exactly what I was talking about. Absolutely,
Like
you build one for them and one for you.
uh, like there, like technically speaking, for the longest time, video game consoles were loss leaders. Where the money actually,
Hmm.
because it's the razor blade approach that's been perfected in the doll scene for decades. Of the accessories are where the real money is made, not the core thing itself.
Right.
And when you're trying to constantly shoot for more in the short term, you end up making dumb decisions in the long term. Hell, that was one of the things that screwed over the comic book scene in the '90s that led to that speculator bubble bursting. It wasn't the only thing, but it was a factor. Uh,
That's
and
so true, and that last leader point is really valid. The point that if you are looking at everything as a profit margin and you're not doing the work, then you are going to be on a race to the bottom on costs, which is why nobody in LA is working right now. All of the studios have moved overseas. They're implementing AI en masse. That's why. And that's why all the movies look like trash.
and using a software setup that has been so roundly rejected. Because
Right.
I remember when it came to the current state of things, I remember somebody saying, do you think movie making is going to go the way of the dodo and it's going to be all streams?" I'm like, no, because the act of going to the movies is far too ingrained in the zeitgeist over the course of, say, what, 60, almost not 60 years, almost a century. Um,
Yeah.
Going all the way back to the old Nickelodeons of the um, 1910s. Um, I'm obviously not the channel. I'm talking the old watch a short movie for a nickel kind of thing.
Right.
And I had said these. I'd said, and I think I've been somewhat validated on this. The way a lot of theaters are going to survive is by doubling down on going to movies as an event kind of thing. And we see certain theaters do
Absolutely.
themed nights. I'd said the megaplex is probably going to phase out, but the event based thing for theaters is going to stay in. Basically, the model that Alamo has been using for years and using very well. Uh,
Right. Well, we've seen this in music, haven't we? I mean, they can't make money through albums anymore. So what do musicians do? They make events,
hmm.
and they tour, and they make the tour worth going to. And I mean, I think movies are doing the same thing. That's what we're seeing on the indie scene here in LA.
Yeah,
And you
there's
know,
a few bands
it's
that come to
happened.
mind. There's a few bands that come to mind when you mention that, where listening to the music is one thing, but going to them live is a completely different experience where you sometimes don't even know what you're gonna get. Um, Guar definitely has perfected the whole going to see them live as an experience thing. Um,
Right.
but to a lesser extent, it also put in Dream Theater because
Uh-huh.
they will just do jam moments spontaneously, and you have no way of knowing what they're gonna pull. Like they might be doing one of their songs, and then right in the middle of it, they switch to doing a riff from America the Beautiful, just because they can.
Right. Right.
Uh,
And it's kind of always been true. I remember going to Bruce Springsteen in the '90s, and you wouldn't know what he was going to do. He would spend 2 hours on a story in the middle of his song.
mhm.
That's not an exaggeration. You're looking at the watch after a while.
Yeah, I think Bono did the same thing for some of those U2 concerts,
Yeah,
and a
yeah,
lot of
and
that got captured on that infamous Rattle and Hum documentary.
right.
Uh,
And what the Allman Brothers? I saw them once at some festival, and they were on stage for an hour and they played 2 songs.
Yeah,
It may have been one song. I don't remember.
of course. And
Anyway,
I could bring up Eddie Van Halen going off the handle, but he does that all the time. It's the reason not Eddie Van Halen, David Lee Roth. It's the reason why half of anybody who spent more than 30 minutes with Roth wants him dead. Um, I'm only half joking with that, but I think something that also helps a project like this is the rise of ghost hunting um, video docs. Uh,
oh yeah.
like that. I mean that kind of thing has cooled off a little bit, but there was a point in time where that kind of thing was everywhere. Uh, and there were a few movies that tried to capitalize on it, but it's again a case of the people trying to capitalize on it not actually studying what they're trying to capitalize on.
Yeah, and that's the thing, capitalizing on something. No, 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 tell the story. What's the best way to tell it?
Mm-hmm.
And given your constraints, and my constraints was, budget, obviously,
Oh yeah.
locations,
Mm-hmm.
technology. Like I can't really do, Cthulhu destroying Santa Monica, even though that's kind of what's going on in the script. And so given all these constraints, how do you tell the best story?
Yeah.
And the answer is simple. You tell a story about humans. The story isn't about Cthulhu unleashed as a result of a viral social media trend. The story is about estranged sisters that have to figure out how to connect with one another in order to confront the idea that they've unleashed Cthulhu onto the world.
Yeah.
And so the climax is between the sisters, not Cthulhu. And then given that, since the focus is on them, you'll see Cthulhu, but it's in the background, and the effects of what Cthulhu is doing, you feel that.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't need big special effects because we're not telling a big story. We're telling a very intimate story.
Yeah.
And then you add social media in as sort of, instead of a gimmick, it becomes a vehicle, because now we have what is essentially a Greek chorus commenting on the A plot throughout the whole movie, and that's what's happening on the social media feed.
Mm-hmm.
So you get to see context without having to, have a major big social special effects budget. You just focus the story. But I think, frankly, it's not even about the budget. That's what movies need to do. They need to focus on the people. And the more that we get these polished CGI or AI adjacent major productions that are focused on IP that nobody cares about anymore. I'm looking at you, Masters of the Universe. I'm sorry, I loved you in the 80s, but do we need this? If it was a story that was about people going through people things, maybe. But I guarantee you it's not.
Yeah.
That's my hot take.
Yeah, I know that a lot of people lament the whole nobody's trying anything new. They're just rebooting everything. And I've always said you are only looking at half of the problem. The other half you need to be looking at is in the mirror, because I've been around. I'm not saying I see everything, but I keep an eye on things and the discourse. And so many times I see people propping up certain classics and saying, nobody could make anything like this ever again, or something like that. And when that gets said enough times, people end up thinking, okay, we shouldn't try to make something new. We should just go with something that's already familiar. Plus, something that often makes people clam up is whenever they do the whole nobody's trying anything new. I often say, when's the last time you did? Put them.
And the truth is, people are trying things new every day, and there's some amazing movies that are out there, but nobody's going to them. They're going to Masters of the Universe, and so they're proving the point of the investors. And the investors are saying, well, we're only going to invest in sure things. This is a built-in audience with the nostalgia factor, and sure as hell, they go out there and they see the movie, but they're not. I mean, are you all going out to see Obsession? Well, apparently, $100 million worth of people are. Are you going out to see these movies? And there's some of the best movies I've seen in decades have come out in the last couple of years, and we need to go see those too.
Yeah,
We need to see those too.
I obviously do what I can, but I'm only one monk. But no one's ever gonna make that claim of, oh, when's the last time you tried something new, in that sense, unless they really want to look like a fool. Because I could just point to my YouTube page and say, how's this for an answer to that question?
Yeah, only every day I'm trying something new.
Uh, but with with that kind of thing in mind, when it, when it came to developing the concept to final version of the RPG version of the End is Trending, how long did that take you? So I'd imagine it wouldn't have taken all that long.
No, well, the system's already done, and even the second version of the system is already done. All I had to do was apply it to this setting. That the hardest part was conceiving a game that is adjacent to the movie but not the movie. So I had to design it open enough that you could create your own apocalypse. I actually pulled some old notes back from my hobbyist apocalypse days because it did that, and then settling on archetypes that would get the game experience, would design a game experience that emulates what's going on in the movie. And so there was some deliberation, but once I settled on the concepts, the actual doing of it, designing graphic design took longer than game design in this case.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
It's I've made a lot of games with the system, and so it's to the point now where it's I just need to retrofit a lot of my older games to the new system, and it's become shorthand for me. I mean, it's the system I enjoy the most. I love playing it. I love running it. I mean, I do run and play other games, but every time I do, I kind of wish I was running and playing my game. And it's when you make the perfect spaghetti sauce for you, you stop wanting to go out and eat at Italian restaurant. That's kind of where I'm at. And it's not like vanity or anything. It's just I made the game I wanted to play. So now it's just kind of rinse and repeat, so I can keep playing the game that I like.
Yeah, and once you have the foundation down pat, then everything else naturally is going to flow from that. That's that 30 seconds of fun I was talking about. And
yeah, and I think in my challenge has always been trying to communicate the rules better. And the rules themselves haven't changed, but in the second edition, I think they're communicated better in every iteration from there. That's actually a challenge for me.
And I suppose some of that challenge is due to old habits. Like a lot of people, when they think of rule resolution, they're either thinking of rolling a set amount of die and comparing that to a target number, or they're thinking of success-based approaches. And for a lot of games, fall into that category, and especially people have certain brain rot moments when it comes to the use of a D20. I've been dealing with that for the last few months personally.
Yeah,
because I'm pretty sure you've gotten the thing where somebody assumes that this is D&D like because it's using a D20. Or
yeah, and it's polyhedrals by design because I like to use my dice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're all dice goblins.
It is right, but it is way more adjacent to PBTA. I wouldn't call it PBTA though because there are some designs that just if you thought it was PBTA, you would be confused. But it uses the same kind of. It's actually a little closer to Forged, I think.
I'd say Forged, and to a certain extent, I remember when I was looking at the way dice worked. I think when I did that review of Highcaster, I drew some parallels to Savage Worlds. It's not nearly as modular as Savage Worlds, but it's in that. I think it's in that middle ground.
Yeah. absolutely.
Uh,
And I would say the drawback to the system is that it doesn't do a good job of making you want to advance your character, and so that kind of carrot mechanic
I think I
isn't
did
very
bring that up.
strong.
Oh,
Yeah, and
that.
and in the second edition, there are some deliberate design choices to kind of address that,
Mhm.
but it's still the weakest part of the system for sure. It
And
is an open and play kind of thing.
admittedly, that's a common problem with games that lean into that playbook-like design.
Yeah.
Um, it's be- where because of the fact that that your advancement is more about width than height. Um,
Hmm.
there's not only is there less inclination, but you also don't feel like you're tackling um, threats to scale, for lack of a better term.
Right. That's absolutely true. Also, you don't have the player agency to customize a character,
Mhm.
and that
Oh yeah,
I like trad games for that reason,
um when I was writing Legend Edition, that's why I went with the whole um, job tracks setup that I did, because I knew that there were characters
Yes.
that were gonna fall in between, and this was instead of instead of just doing set jobs of you are just a fighter or you are just a black mage or something like that. I was like, there's plenty of characters in the series that are right in the middle of that, so I'm going to account for that. And when I was trying to make some of my own characters when it came to High Caster, I had that exact same problem. Like if I have a character who falls into the category of a magic knight, I could make it in the caster system, at least with High Caster, but it is going to be tricky. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. You had to swap out disciplines basically, and
mhm.
it works, but it's not.
It's
It's
not
not very
elegant.
elegant. That's the word. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and,
it's
and there's a version of Casper coming down the pipe, which is I don't know when it's going to happen. It's a ridiculous effort, so it might not be for a while. Where it's really trying to emulate what D&D does. It really is a version of Dungeon Caster, an advanced version of Dungeon Caster, um, and the design has been very difficult because of this. It's hard to with this design paradigm. It's hard to make it hierarchical and to make it modular enough for people to customize long-term characters.
yeah. I think I did as good as I can when it comes to that. Oh, but and I've seen some argue that up to a certain level, think things get boring in say D&D. I look at that as far more of a far more of a problem with the um, not the design per se, but the lack of guidance. That the guidance is so hyper focused on the low level experience, kind of a polar opposite of the world first problem that World of Warcraft has had for the longest time.
Yeah,
Where
I wonder if they're still operating, but there was this game company called 2C Gaming that did these D&D modules on epic level scale. And adventures and streamlined mechanics on 5th edition designed entirely for god level play.
there's
And
been
it
a
was a
few
blast.
epic level rule sets, and I do remember I do remember 2C. I think I backed one of their Kickstarters. Uh,
Yeah.
there's but I haven't heard from them in a while, so I don't know if they're doing anything, or they felt that, well, we did everything that we planned on doing with this concept. Uh, but with now, obviously, if you're taking that approach, I hope to God you're not using the spells per day model, or overly favoring mages. That's that's certainly something I don't miss.
Yeah, it is it's difficult in game design, and I don't design games for that. So I think maybe I'm avoiding the problem altogether. But when you think about Vampire and even Shadowrun and some of those more gritty games, the power curve gets ridiculous after a certain point.
And I think having a ridiculous power curve is fine if you lean into it. Uh,
Mm.
if you don't like if there's a certain paradox in some games where you have this ridiculous amount of power, but you're still living in the dumps like you're a first level character. Oh,
Yeah, yeah, you're not in Stark Tower.
I think I think the approach to adjust that is, well, for one, when you have a setting to tie things to, it makes things a lot easier. But also, by that high level, you should be in Stark Tower.
Right.
Uh, you're not the person who's being hired to take out some local goblins. You're the person who they hire when say a kaiju level threat shows up. Uh,
Yeah, and like in those movies, your decisions and your choices can have a huge impact on the whole world, or even certainly the community that you're in.
mhm.
And so it's that power comes responsibility adage, which is way more interesting to play than some ridiculous combat.
Yeah,
Although the combat's fun too.
yeah. Have that in there, but if you're going, but have that understanding of escalation. Um, I know for some the idea of drawing from manga is sacrilege, but no study
Why?
no study battle manga and how those sit and how you have this um escalation as you keep going.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, absolutely. Use every source. Why is that sacrilege?
I guess I never I have tried to make sense of that for most of my life, and the best I can understand is different is scary. Uh,
Oh, yes, different is scary.
or I think some people are just self-conscious about the idea of being one of those weebs, except they can never define what that
Yeah.
means.
Yeah, well, more
And
fiction for us, I guess.
yeah, and I and there's nothing wrong with trying to do low tier gritty characters, but there should be some degree of progress, much in the same way as there's progress in a film. Like the surviving characters in a horror movie are not the same characters in the third act that they were in the first.
Right. It's the hero's journey.
Hmm. And I know some want to try and downplay the hero's journey or claim that it's overused. It gets used as much as it does because it works.
Yeah, it's the fundamental structure of human storytelling, and
Hmm.
it's variable. It doesn't have to be locked in, but it's the beat. It's a rhythm,
Yeah.
and it's something that we expect in our stories. And so when the rhythm hits, it feels good. When the rhythm doesn't hit, it doesn't feel good, and maybe you're doing that on purpose. But you should know the rhythm.
Hmm. And you
I'm
also
strict about those rhythms. I use Save the Cat. I use all of the little systems and formulas because I know that it creates the rhythm, and that is it's most important to me, is that you feel engaged in the story and that you don't have this unease of, oh, I'm watching a story thing happen, which happens when you fall out of rhythm.
yeah, and I do think some um, have a they think they have an understanding of the rhythm and try to move away from the rhythm because, oh, if we do that we'll be unique, but not grasping there's a reason why it's used, and it's not because of a circular thinking. Like we and I, th- I remember when Bulletstorm was in testing. There was a story of well, do we need to have the exploding barrels be red? Can we have them be another color? So they tested that, and nobody shot the exploding barrels. So they reverted that decision. Oh,
Right. I mean, we have computers or brains, and they're hardwired to respond to certain stimuli, and that's, why would you deviate from that? And there may be a reason. I'm just saying, have a reason.
have a reason and not do it for its own sake. There was a bit of a
Right. Right.
discussion about whether or not we need to re-examine the way turns work in RPGs, and I had the attitude of if we're going to take that approach, then it's important to understand what we're trying to do, that where turns aren't necessary. At least turns in the
Yeah.
traditional sense. Uh, I know, like you and I had briefly talked about Daggerheart before we went live, and that isn't doing a strict approach, but that's in service to the spotlight like cinematic approach that it's taking.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's rooted in Forged, which is rooted in PBTA. The idea of a spotlight, Daggerheart actually mechanizes it, so it's still using turns. It's just done in a more loosey goosey way, I guess.
Yeah.
But I find that even it's restricted. Like, I was running Daggerheart recently, and I was a little frustrated because everybody's playing really well and rolling really well, and I wasn't getting to move or do anything as a storyteller. So it has its drawbacks, but it's doing it in service of latency. It doesn't want you to wait for your turn. It wants the story to continue. So there should be no latency, and that way, everybody, if somebody wants to do something, they could do something.
Yeah.
Instead of waiting 7 minutes to do something.
And
that's why they do it. But it has its own challenges.
Yeah. It's a case of just adjusting one's thinking. When in Rome, you do as the Romans do. And
yeah,
that's one of those things. That's one of those things where sometimes you have to adapt to the way a certain system works. I've not putting myself on a pedestal here, but I've seen some folk have some resistance to me not using grids or theater of the mind, but using a row-based system for my project.
mm-hmm.
You have a front row and a back row. Part of that is a nod to what I'm drawing inspirations from, but the other part was that it felt like a compromise towards what I wanted, because I felt that doing grid combat or doing theater of the mind created more problems than solved for what I was trying to do.
Yeah.
And I likened it to how with the way grid combat is seen, we've gone from the whole confined areas to more set piece like designs, but are still using the movement patterns of those confined areas, and it leads to a bit of a disconnect. I likened it to the difference between formations in the NFL versus the CFL. The CFL has very offense favoring formations. The NFL has very tight defensive focused formations. I'm vastly simplifying, of course, but
yeah. I get your thinking though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's an interesting. I mean, and as a player, I like both. I like theater of the mind, and I like movement-based grid combat, and it just is a different modality. And so if I'm feeling like I want to use strategy and tactics, then I'm going to prefer grid combat. But if I'm feeling storytellery, I'm going to prefer theater of the mind. And I have a hard time reconciling that in my system. The the way that that caster really handles it is it fictionally possible what you're trying to do? Because caster doesn't ask what you're doing; it asks why. Your roles are based upon what you're not how you're doing something, but why you're doing something. I'm doing something to close the distance. That's a stage threat, a stage of your threat, and so you're resolving that stage of the threat by moving. And so it's kind of a different approach, and so you can kind of you don't really need a grid, but you also don't really need theater of mind. You need to track the stages of the conflict.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's me designing around the problem.
Yeah.
Because as a player, I like both.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Now, currently the RPG version of The End is Trending is out. Has the film been released yet? Because obviously I've been a little bit out of the loop on that front since the RPG was my
Oh
focus.
no, it's yeah. The RPG is actually coming from the printer. Hopefully, it'll be here in a couple of days, and then I'll ship it out to backers. It's not released. After that, it's going to be released on DriveThru. And after that, I'm going to make the card version, which is the version that will probably end up being the final version. But that's down the road because I still have to finalize Caster 2E. So this is really an in-between game. Totally playable though, totally functional, play tested, is ready to go. The movie, we just finished principal photography. What that means is all the major shots have been done, but we have to do some more kind of filler shots and background stuff. And once that's done, it'll go into post-production. Now, post-production meaning it needs to be edited, it needs to be colored, it needs to be sound designed, and all of that. Now, the editing is actually already underway.
Mm-hmm.
The goal right now is to have the movie released it's going to be released as sort of like an ARG. It's going to be clips released on social media over a period of months until the actual premiere, which will be in October. But the clips release is happening at the end of July, and it's all happening on this platform called My Channel. It's mychannel.co, and it's kind of a new platform, and they ended up backing the Kickstarter, and so we're doing a brand deal with them. And the fictional timeline social media thing that's happening in the movie is actually My Channel. So we're doing a lot of co-marketing with them, and we're going to be releasing the clips there first, and then we'll release it on broader social media later. And so it's basically going to take about 6 months to release the whole thing. After October, it'll go to the normal distribution channels like Tubi and those places. Oh, yeah. So we have a long release schedule, but you'll be able to get to see it in October.
Mm-hmm. Which would be the ideal time to do something like this.
Like right.
Who the hell would release a horror movie during the summer? What kind of idiot would do that?
What's his name? Who released Obsessed? What's his name? Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue. Barker. I can't remember his name.
Yeah,
so
I know.
That's sad for me.
I know. I had to throw some shade because all are cremated equal in the temple.
Obsession is so good. If you haven't seen it, it made me so happy.
Yeah, I have. It's just, and I'd imagine releasing it in the summer is more of the fall was too crowded kind of situation, because that can happen.
It's funny when you're in it. It's like I think the studios look at seasonality, but at least for me and a lot of the indie people I know, it's when does the production end. I got the media done now. Distribution, and so you kind of calendar it out based on when you get the production, and the production is entirely based on schedules. It was so hard to get everybody together to shoot this thing, and we were shooting it over the course of about 4 or 5 months, but only maybe 2 or 3 shoots a month.
Oh yeah,
because of schedules. So it just sort of accidentally happened that we're releasing in October.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, now how certainly.
But hey, it's Halloween.
Yep. Oh, the time every year that I'm reminded about me tricking people into eating sugar-free candy that one time years and years ago.
You know, they should thank you. They have their teeth.
Uh, I consider revenge for everyone rubbing salt in the fact that they could have all that chocolate and I can't. Oh,
Oh, you can't have chocolate?
I have an issue with the cocoa bean.
Oh, no. All right, so Jolly Ranchers.
Uh, I like Stroop waffles,
Oh, yeah. Oh, they're good.
but with that said, as always, a sincere thanks to you for taking the time out of your schedule to come all the way to the monastery and enjoy the madness that happens here. And anytime you see fit to return, the door is always open. As I often say around here, drinking is not mandatory, but it is encouraged.
Well, I really appreciate it. As always, thank you so much.
Oh, yeah. And, of course, a sincere thanks goes out to everyone who took the time out of their schedule to come onto the show and enjoy the madness. And there will be plenty more where that came from, as there always is here, on the open bar of the internet. But until then, on behalf of the good brothers present and not present, my name is Mildra. I am your gaming monk. Stay fucking frosty, everybody.